Once upon a time, there was a guy that lived next door to me. And this guy was probably one of the smartest men that I've ever met. Constantly thinking, constantly coming up with great ideas, but he just could not stop the ideas from coming. Every time he would see me outside of the house, he would say, "Hey, Gerald, I want you to hear this new idea I have." And of course, me being a great guy, I want to listen. I want to hear what he had to say. But one thing I've noticed is that he always had another idea. And he says to me one day, Gerald, I always come up with these great ideas, but I got to tell you something. I said, "Well, what is it?" "I just wish it would stop sometimes." And I said, "Wish what would stop, John?" "The thoughts." "What do you mean?" He's like, "All day I'm in my mind thinking about solving problems. What about this? What about that? Coming up with new ideas, coming up with, scenarios. And what if this happens?" And he's like, "It's like my mind feels like a circus." And I said, "Well, John, how long does this happen throughout the day?" He's like, "What do you mean how often? This is how this is my mind." And I said, "John, you mean to tell me that you feel like you're like bombarded by your thoughts, basically?" Like, "Yeah." He's like, "That's why I have all these ideas." He's like, "Even though I may not do all of them, like I'm just constantly," he's like, "I just wish that it would just maybe slow down or stop." And that's what this episode is about, is how is it that we could do that? How is it that we can access what John and the rest of us go through, which is turning off the faucet? How do we turn the thoughts off? Like, Jesus Christ, like you're just standing in line and everything that's happened in the last 2 years just comes flooding in your mind. It's like there's no guard at the gate, And that's what we're going to talk about. Like, how do I do that? Like, how do I access this way of being, this level of consciousness? I was just talking to a really great friend of mine, and we were talking about how it's very difficult for people to come to this realization that sometimes you're living out of your mind. And that's a scary space because you're not living in reality. Everything's going on up here. And to know that is like, wait, we had the discussion. We're like, okay, wait, a lot of people are living, but they're not alive. I mean, people have heartbeats and stuff like that, but like you don't feel alive. And it's hard to feel alive when you're, and you're trapped in your mind and your thoughts that are given to you by all the stuff you watch. We were just talking about that. Like, people are living in their heads, especially smart people. The more intellectuals, oh yeah. She says to me today, this is so good. She says, she may hear this episode. She says to me today, for the longest, I always stayed in my head. So as a child, so I wouldn't have to feel anything, right? And that makes so much sense. It's like a lot of times I think we're in our minds because we're trying to protect our hearts. Childhood trauma growing up. And we're scared to let someone in. We're scared to evolve into something else, right? So learning how to know that you're unconscious, that your mind is just like chattering all day long, like the movie that won't shut off. Do you feel like your mind is a movie that won't shut off? Like the movie that won't stop playing? I asked someone today, she says, I asked, "What do you do?" She says, "Well, honestly, I don't really do anything. I just kind of, float, just kind of just making it." And I'm, "What do you mean just making it?" "Just going through." And I'm going through. And in my mind, I'm like, I know what she means. And so I said to her, I said, "Okay, well, gotcha. Do you meditate?" And she says to me, "No, I don't meditate. I don't have the mental fortitude to meditate." And so when she says to me, "I don't have the mental fortitude to meditate," I know mental fortitude meaning I don't have the toughness. I can't stick there. Can you imagine hearing yourself say, "I'm not strong enough to sit with myself"? Because mental fortitude is I don't have enough skill set to do that. Right? I'm not strong enough to sit with myself for, 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever, So when someone says they can't meditate, that means they don't have the fortitude. That means that they haven't figured out that their mind is in so much control that the idea of sitting down and turning it off seems absolutely impossible. It's hard to stop something that you're not in control of. If you want to stop the chattering, you have to realize that you're not even in control of the chattering. This is something else controlling the situation. This is your memories. Your mind has gone rampant. The one thing that we've used since mankind, right, to like evolve us, right, to get us to the next space has now become, common enemy number one, the mind. The mind, the battlefield is not about politics. It's not about blue or red or any, teams. It's about what's going on in your mind. And if your mind is constantly chattering, and all your mind is a bunch of stuff and thoughts and experiences you've had, and you haven't replaced the trauma with excitement and happiness, you know what you're going to be thinking about all day? What your mind's going to be reminding you of all day? All the craziness that's ever happened. Yeah. So being mindful, learning mindfulness from a mindfulness expert like myself, I'm mindfulness certified, I'm yin yoga certified, and also psychology, and all of these things that I feel are very, very helpful when it comes to helping other people. And I think if you want to get control of your mind, if you want to get control of the chattering, right, the constant thoughts, you need to be aware of your thoughts, your consciousness. You are consciousness. You are the thoughts, right? So spending time, how do you do that, Gerald? This sounds great. Good. Got you. My thoughts are going. How do I get a hold of this though, right? How do I get a hold of this? Well, I can tell you this much. If you start being in charge and aware of what you're consuming every day, what I mean by that, mentally, emotionally, what are you watching on TV? We had this conversation earlier today. Listen, here's something I want you to look at. I want you to think about the shows you watch on TV and tell me if your life is not reflective of the shows you watch on television. Anybody like true crime? Huh? Anybody like Housewives of one of those cities? Right? Just saying. I don't watch any of it. I'm not judging you. What I am saying simply is that whatever you consume, it comes out. So if your mind is constantly chattering, and it's chattering about everything that you've ever saw, it's chattering about everything that you've ever listened to, what do you think it's telling you to do? Right? You've got to get control of what you're consuming. When you control the input, what you're inputting inside of yourself, you can control the output. You can control exactly what's going to happen on the other side, right? More so than not, right? So know that what fires together wires together. Things that, right, when you put your eyeballs on something and when you listen to something, you're basically saying, I approve this message. I approve this message. Anytime you listen to something, anytime you consume something, right? Which is why growing up, I used to listen to rap music a lot. One of my favorite artists was DaBaby. Loved DaBaby. Oh my God. But I started noticing how angry and agitated I used to be after I listened to DaBaby. And I said to myself, well, I don't really want to be agitated as a human. I don't want to be agitated. So I stopped listening to DaBaby. I don't know are you listening to the things that agitate you and you don't even know it? Like the music, it affects you. They're called frequencies, vibrations. It may sound woo-woo to some people, but last time I checked, everything has vibration. Everything does have a vibration. Music does affect you. That's why when you put on certain songs, it makes you happy. When you put on certain songs, they make you sad. That's why music and frequency, melodies, it affects you. So if you want to get control of your chattering, maybe turn off some of the music and listen to stuff that doesn't even have words. Binaural beats, one of the things I love. I meditate to binaural beats, actually. Love it. Different frequencies. You can tap into that. Go on YouTube, tons of different stuff. Binaural beats. Also, true tones, or one of my favorites as well. True tones. True tones is like no music. It's just like straight, like it sounds like stuff like that. Yeah, it's like it's very intense, but you can put it on low. But all these different modalities that you can utilize, right, that will help you turn off the noise. The reason why it's so much noise is because everything we're constantly, and here's the thing, it's not your fault that your mind won't turn off. It's been designed by social media, by marketing, to constantly berate and bombard us with information so we go and buy something, okay? So if you understand that, your job is to be like blue blockers all day and try to block as much of the external influence, the marketing, social media, the music, the videos, all of it. Your job is to maintain a healthy diet of spiritual and mental food consumption. Meaning you need to be listening, watching, and hearing things that are spiritually and mentally nourishing to your soul. Yeah? Not debilitating, not agitating, not messy, not drama, no. Do you want drama in your life? Don't watch drama TV. Do you want someone to murder your family or kill your kids? Or stop watching true crime. Do you want angry stuff? Stop listening to most modern rap music. There's reasons why your life is showing up. It's because it's not accidental. It's what you're choosing to pour into your life. So if you want the mental chatter to stop coming, stop putting it in your life. Yeah, remove the noise, remove the excess noise so you can quiet and silence the mind. Quieting the mind, that's what meditation does, right? That's what mindfulness does. And being mindfulness is basically saying, I'm aware that my mind has thoughts, but being mindful, practicing mindfulness, is watching the thoughts that come in your mind. They're yours. Check them out on the way through. As they come through, this is what mindfulness really does. When you start being aware of your own thoughts, you can then watch your thoughts, right? Just like you're watching this podcast, go subscribe, go follow the podcast, continue to share the podcast, right? We're on Apple, we're on YouTube, right? Share these messages, listen to this type of content to where you're adding value mentally, spiritually, physically. You're pouring into yourself. You're making sure that you are giving yourself the best opportunities with skills, techniques, and strategies, right? This is the kind of stuff you need. Now, can you imagine, right? Can you imagine the kind of life you can have access to when what you listen to and consume is stuff like this, messages like this, information like this, right? Spiritual Talks with Gerald, listening to YouTube channels, right? Just like this one, right? If you listen to this on the audio, we have a YouTube channel so you can visually see this, right? There's all sorts of wonderful outlets, modalities that you could pour into that serve you growing and becoming the best version that you can be. But if you're not being mindful, if you're not watching your thoughts, if you're not watching what you're reading, watching what you're listening to, can you imagine the mental chatter? There's no silencing that. Social media, noise, right? Music, noise. TV, noise. Movies, noise. Work, noise. Where can your mind be silent? You see this? Do you see this for yourself? Forget what I'm saying. Do you see how it's very difficult for you to quiet the mind because you're just constantly going all day? It's not your fault. It's your responsibility to say, hey, I'm going to get a grip on this. The world's not going to stop worlding, right? Social media ain't going to stop socialing, right? The videos are not going to stop videoing, right? The marketing is not going to stop marketing. Everything's going to keep going. So it's your job to be like, you know what? I know life is just going to life, right? My job is to take control of my life so I won't be in strife, right? That's what it is. I'll take control of my life so I won't be in strife, right? Information is amazing once it's applied, right? So now that you understand, how is it that I can get past the chattering of the mind? How is it? How do I do that? I do that by making sure I consume less, that I'm protecting my peace, right? That guarding my space, my mental space, right? Making sure that you have the food, you have the water, you have the music. All of these things are key ingredients to you being the best person that you can be. All of it. There's not just one thing. It's not like, oh, Gerald, I'll stop, listening. No, it's like making a cake, right? It's not just the batter. It's the egg. It's the milk, right? It's what you're listening to. It's what you're watching. It's everything. And then there goes your thoughts, right? So I hope this has added value as you continue your spiritual path, as you continue to unlock the hidden mysteries of how to tap into mindfulness. And if you need a coaching session, always reach out. Send us a DM that says, I need help, right? One of the biggest and strongest things you could ever say is, I need help. It's very difficult. I'm a person that took me a while to even understand that asking for help is not a sign of weakness, but strength. It's saying I'm willing to work with somebody and go the extra mile for myself to figure it out. I'm not going to wait for life to show up. I'm going to show up for my life. Yeah. I'm not going to wait for life to show up. I'm going to show up first. Right? I'm going to be proactive in my own life. I'm going to be proactive in my own approach, right? I got this. So continue to like, follow, share the podcast. This has been another episode of Spiritual Talks. I am your host, Gerald, and I will see you on the next episode. Namaste.